All right, we're going to immediately move forward with step 2. And in step 2, we're going to make sure that the world becomes your motivator. And essentially what we will do here is we will make your motivation more lasting. And this is essentially an extension of the things we have done in step 1. In step 1, I gave you the example of Steve Jobs, who was very good at extracting and communicating his purpose. And I want to show you another technique that he also in particular used to make this purpose more lasting and make the motivation that comes from that purpose more lasting. So on one day in his company, one of his employees found a way to display squares a lot faster than they could do at the time. And everybody was really impressed by that except for Steve, because Steve really wanted to have round edges. Now this is something the employee didn't really understand. He was offering to be able to display things a lot faster. And don't people want to have fast computers? But Steve insisted that there need to be round edges. Now at this point the employee wasn't very motivated to solve that problem because he really didn't see the point of it. He didn't see the purpose behind that goal. And so here's what Steve Jobs did. He took the employee out for a walk and then he showed him several things. For example, he showed him that all the fancy and nice and modern buildings have round edges, while the ugly and old and the buildings in which nobody wants to live, they basically look like squares and they have very sharp edges. Likewise, the nice cars, the cars that are attractive, the cars that are beautiful and that you want to drive, they always have round edges, while the ugly cars and the old cars, they have sharp edges and they look a lot more square. In fact, even if you look just into nature, you will see that the landscapes that we consider beautiful and attractive and soothing usually have a lot of round edges, while the rougher and less inviting landscapes usually have a lot of sharp edges here in terms of rocks and stones, and they're not very inviting to us. In fact, one of the things that Steve Jobs pointed out on that walk was that even such mundane things as traffic signs have round edges. Why do we give them round edges? That really isn't necessary. But the truth is that people just enjoy seeing round edges because round edges stand for beauty, for modern, for fancy. They stand for everything that we like. So that's what Steve Jobs did. And there are two things that he's accomplishing here. One is that he effectively communicates the purpose behind the goal to find a way to display things with round edges. Now the employee really understands why this is so important. But there's more happening here, and that's what we want to focus on in this lecture. Because what's happening here is that not only does the employee understand now why it is important to have round edges, but also wherever he looks, whether he looks at buildings, or whether he looks at traffic signs, or cars, or just nature, wherever he looks, he gets reminded of that purpose. He gets reminded of the importance of finding a way to display things with round edges. So in other words, not only did Steve Jobs tell him why it's important to have round edges, but he also made the world a reminder of that purpose. Wherever that employee looks, he saw the importance of round edges. And that is a very powerful trick to make your motivation more lasting, and a lot more powerful than what most motivation strategies out there suggest. Most strategies have you do something every day, such as affirming your goal every morning or meditating on your goal every morning. And the problem is that this is usually not sustainable because you already need motivation to actually do that. But this trick here pretty much works by itself. Once you've made the connection with all the things that you usually encounter in your life, the world just becomes a reminder of your purpose, and thereby the world becomes your motivator. So that's what we're going to do in this lecture. We're going to turn the world into the reminder of your purpose. And to do that, you're going to do an assignment, and the simple assignment is to find 5 or more common situations in your everyday life and describe how they are related to your goal. And the two things that are important to focus on here is that first, you want to find common situations that you automatically encounter in your everyday life. And second, you want to make sure that there's a clear connection to your goal. So to help you with this, let's practice this a little bit with a couple of examples. And again, I'm going to use the example of the goal to lose weight. So to what things in your everyday life would that goal be connected to? So one thing it might be connected to is when you get up in the morning and you put on clothes, and maybe you even look into the mirror and you see yourself, and that could be a moment where you could really realize that, first of all, you would look different in the mirror if you had already lost weight. And second, maybe you could also wear clothes that right now you don't dare to wear, but that you really would like to wear. And your clothes and your mirror could be a reminder of that. Another example, if you're interested in clothes, is if you pass a store that displays clothes that you would like to wear. And if you pass that store very often in your everyday life, then that could also be a very effective reminder of your goal and the purpose behind your goal. Another situation that could be a good reminder of your goal is if you're sitting in the bus a lot and the train a lot and it's busy there and you get squeezed between people and maybe even feel embarrassed about the fact that you're taking too much space, then that could also be a great reminder of your goal and your purpose, because you can easily imagine how much more pleasant that situation would be if you had already achieved your goal. Another example could be if you go out to walk or to run, maybe with your dog, and maybe your dog is pulling on your leash, and maybe you cannot really keep up because you're just not fit enough and just have too much weight. And again, that could be a great reminder of your goal and the purpose why you want to reach that goal. Okay, we need one more situation, and a possible situation could be whenever you walk stairs. If you hate walking stairs because you're too heavy for it and you get out of breath, then that could be another great reminder of how much your life would be better once you reach that goal. But again, the important thing here is that it has to be stairs that you frequently encounter in your everyday life. If you don't frequently walk upstairs because you have elevators or for whatever reason, then that wouldn't be a good situation to use here. But if you do regularly have to walk upstairs, then these stairs can be a very effective reminder of your goal. Okay, so we have 5 reminders for the goal of losing weight. Now let's do another example and find 5 reminders of the goal to study. And what situations are effective here for any goal really depends on what the purpose is behind your goal. And in the last lecture, we used the example where somebody wants to study to earn well in the future. And in that case, a great reminder could be, for example, the room the student is living in. If it's a small room and this student really dreams of living in a better place, then simply the room can be an excellent reminder of that goal, because that's a place where you automatically go every day. In fact, you wake up in that place. Another example to make this even stronger would be if you visit people who live in a much nicer place. And that could be friends, or it could be your parents. Whatever works for you, whatever reminds you of the reason why you're studying. Another situation that could help would be if you pass your neighbor's car, which is a really nice car, and if you're interested in driving such a car and studying is a means to get to the point where you can afford that car, then that can be a great reminder. The only important thing here is that it has to be, for example, the neighbor's car, so that you actually encounter it frequently in your everyday life. Another example could be whenever you step on your bike, and if you don't really like being on your bike and you dream of driving, for example, a car like this, then this can be a very nice addition, a very nice reminder of why you're doing the effort of studying so hard. Okay, but say now you're not that materialistic and you study for different reasons. Say, for example, that you study because you just don't feel that you're performing well enough and you feel uncomfortable about yourself. Then one reminder could be the feeling that you have whenever you're sitting in the university between the other students and you just feel like you're not performing as well as the rest of them. And your reminder could simply be that you could get rid of that feeling and maybe even feel proud of yourself if you could make yourself study more. Or if you're in a long-term relationship and you're planning to have a family, then your partner can be the reminder of your goal. If you're doing this because you want to have a job that provides for you and your partner and the family that you're going to have in the future, then your partner is one of the best reminders that you can have of the reason why you're doing what you're doing. So the important points here is that you find something that works for you, something that connects not just to your goal, but also to your purpose, and that you find something that you actually frequently encounter in your everyday life. And here's some general techniques that you can use for any goal, really. So one is to choose a password or a PIN code that reminds you of your purpose. I do that, for example, for my laptop, because in my laptop I actually need to type in the password every time. And whenever I type it in, I get reminded again what my purpose is and why I'm working so hard. Another example is to just put a picture on your wall or use some kind of decoration in your home that reminds you of your purpose. This is something that I use a little bit less, but it can actually be very effective. So if you like doing that, then I strongly recommend that you try it out. Another really simple but very effective technique is that you develop a habit of sharing your dreams with other people, especially with your close friends that you see very often. Because if you do that, and if you get a habit of talking about these things from time to time, then your friends can become the most effective reminders of your purpose that you can ever have. Okay, so at this point it's time to get active. So again, you will find the whole assignment explained again after this lecture. So go ahead, do the assignment, and then I see you again in the next lecture.